hey, anybody who has not met me and doesn't know who I am, my name's Katie. This is Axel. Be somewhere around, and they'll probably be like massive features of this podcast because they're basically Insta famous. I really have wanted to do a podcast for a really long time. However, running a business, having a house, doing life, there's just never ever been enough time. And I met this awesome guy through another coach that I know who has agreed to be a guest on the podcast. So I'm very excited for that. But David is amazing. He's going to be like my producer. You know, when you're on the radio and then like they speak to the guy in the background, that's going to be David, because I'm going to need some backup at some point. I mean, those of you that know me know that I probably haven't got an issue with talking for half an hour, but just in case I do lose my way, David's definitely going to be in the background supporting me, or I'm going to start talking to Axel and that'll be a bit weird. So I wanted to use my first episode really to kind of give a bit of an introduction of me, a little bit about my life, to kind of give a little bit of clarity about who I am and where I am now and kind of how I've got there, because, well, I'm self-made. And I'm going to try not to sound arrogant and also a little bit narcissistic, but that's for another time. Anyway, yeah, so I'm like 32, nearly 33. I'm a fitness professional, as half of Instagram is. And I absolutely fucking love my job. Like literally not one day of what I do feels like work. But I've had some really wild jobs over the years. Like I'm going to start right at the beginning. So like right at the very beginning, I have always ridden horses. I've always been competitive. I've always had to have something to work towards and have something to do. The drive inside of me is, I'm going to talk about this on another episode, but it's a blessing and a curse, because I'm never, ever satisfied. I'm constantly striving for something else, and that's been my entire life. So I've got my mum and dad. I've got a sister called Stephanie. I've got 2 gorgeous nephews. We grew up in like a little village, and we had our horses. I actually dropped out of school the first day back of sixth form because I was like, this isn't for me. I don't like learning. Like, learning sucks. I'm hugely dyslexic. I definitely label myself that as well, and it's a toxic trait. I'm hugely dyslexic. Like, I cannot spell. You may or may not have noticed I typo everything, but I don't see it because I'm just like, I've already blanket vision to, I'm blanket vision to what I've already written. And I found school really hard. Like, I was a geek. I was the geek that was like trying to study for my GCSEs in like January because I thought I was going to fail. And that was pretty tough. Like, I was putting so many hours in just to kind of get to a point where I was passing with like C's and D's, and that was a lot of work. It was always just really tough. But yeah, everybody has a tough story. Okay, are we going to lie down? There we go. Okay, so so school was pretty hard. I dropped out of the first day back of sixth form. I think I know why now. We lost my dad shortly after that. I was 17 and my sister was obviously 3 years younger than me, and that was a really difficult time in life. And I look back now and I was probably going through like a little bit of a early life crisis, because I was like, I've just dropped out of school. There was no real need to. I just found it pretty hard, but there was a lot going on with my personal life and my family. But anyway, we had some therapy for that. I dealt with that a little bit later. In terms of kind of like the next part of my journey, I ended up working on a livery yard. I literally made it my mission that I had to pass my driving test like way before I was 17. Like, being like the biggest saver in the world as well. Like, I've always worked. Like, I'm a grafter. I had jobs on livery yard with horses when I was like 14, earning £20 a morning, mucking out stables, like anything for like to make a little bit of money so I could put it in my savings account so I was ready to drive. Like, we grew up in a village. And the village was like so small and tiny that like I had to get out. I had to get out of the village. And that was my mission. I passed my driving test literally after 3 months, and that was it. I was like independent. Like I constantly needed independence and to be like working towards something. I stuck at the horses for a period of time and then fell out of love with it when I actually started working with them. And then I ended up working in a pub. Loved the pub. The pub was brilliant. Like you learn so much from the mature guys at the bar. It's quite weird now because like I was 18 and they're like old men, but I don't know, you just make friends along the way and you learn so much and you get so many life experiences from being there. Like you take so much experience from the people around you. And if you surround yourself with intelligent, knowledgeable, intellectual people, that rubs off on you because that's the people you're surrounding yourself with, and that still applies for life now. Anyway, I'm waffling. Fast forward like a few years, I got a job at Nationwide. Everybody in Northampton has probably worked at Nationwide or Barclays at one point in their life, and that was it. That turned into my first career. I made it my mission to literally work my way to the top. I wanted to be like a top performer. There was like this leaderboard at Nationwide and I wanted to be at the top of it. And I think I made it to like top 3, apart from when the guy who I was in competition with was on holiday, and then I probably pipped him to it. But I literally constantly made it my mission. I had to be the best at everything because I was so shit at school. And it's taken me a long time to kind of realise like where this drive, where this passion, where this ambition comes from. But it comes from a place of actually, I was so shit at school. Learning wasn't my thing. Maths wasn't my thing. So like I had to be good at something. And that's kind of like how I've grown my business. Well, then I worked my way up through Nationwide into like mortgage advisor, account balance, like branch manager, you name it, I did it. And it was just constant driving, always striving for more. And I got into my career at Nationwide and then moved to TSB, and then it felt like something huge was missing from my life. Like I was just trying to fill this void with like earning the next salary or like being the best at this and being the best at that. And that's kind of like how I landed into fitness. I'm going to go on a side note in a minute and talk about like my personal experiences, but like fitness for me literally like saved me. Like it gave me this geeky girl at school who thought she liked horses, who didn't like horses, who constantly had that drive. It gave me like my identity, like, and who I am. And that's kind of like where I've got to now. I got asked at a climbing psychology workshop when I was working at the bank, like, what would make you happy? If money wasn't an issue, because I'm quite money motivated, I'm not afraid to admit it. If money wasn't an issue, like, what would you do? And I was like, I'd do fitness and I'd work with people because I love people. Like, I'm one of those fucking weird people who's like, people are annoying, don't get me wrong, but I actually love people. Like, they're fascinating, the way they think, the way they act, what they do. People are fascinating. And 4 months later, I was in Thailand with my ex-partner and I got a message from the bank about something that was going on at work. And I literally handed my notice in the second I got back and qualified as a personal trainer. And that for me was a pivotal moment like 5 years ago. It was absolutely pivotal to my life. But I'm going to like rewind a little bit and talk about how I landed into fitness. So remember when I said about the fact that I worked with horses? Anybody who's ever worked manual work, like loads of the builders out there will know, like you guys have got it good. Like you just literally move your butts all day. You're in Greggs, you're having the best time. So I was working on this yard, mucking out like 26 horses a day. And then going home, riding my own, going back to work, feeding them all, etc. And then coming home and riding the second one. I remember my first day there, I went back to home. My mum was like, hey, you going to have some dinner? And I was like, no, I just need to go to bed. I'm so tired. And I just literally got into the bath, got into bed and went to bed at 7 o'clock. It was my first day's work in my whole life, and I thought I'd worked. But obviously living that life, we were in the sandwich shop in Ashton like every day, and I would get like a massive baguette filled, 2 cream cakes, box of chocolate fingers, and a packet of sweets, and that was my lunch every single day. I guess my poor relationship with food may or may not have started from my mum. She's probably listening to this, like cringing. But my mum was a generation of slimming welders, Weight Watchers, dieters. It was a little bit of a joke in my family that when we went to like classes on Saturday morning, and we went to Oliver Adams for like pastries. Anybody who lives in Northampton, Oliver Adams, so sad you closed. And you'd go to Oliver Adams and we'd buy some cakes, and it was literally like a joke in the family. The first person to get home would be like scoffing the cakes and getting them in before anybody else would. And I guess like my relationship with food started then, like really early in my teenage years. So when I left the yard with the horses, I put on so much weight. I was like, oh my God, how is this happening? Like I stopped working with horses, got the pub job, wasn't moving as much. And all of a sudden, I'm like 14 and a half stone, fat, and like, Jesus, like miserable, like looking at myself in the mirror. And I was like, how on earth have I got here? Like I'm fucking huge. So I joined a gym. What do you do when you're overweight and unhappy? You join the gym, don't you? Like everybody needs to join the gym. I joined my first gym. I started off doing classes. I started lifting a few weights, like using the machine, sussing my way around. And there was this amazing woman in the gym, Becky Adams, and she was bodybuilding. And I was like, wow, she's really cool. She's ripped. She's jacked. She has bright red hair. She's like amazing. And with that, I literally approached her, and I was like made friends with her, asked her what she was doing. And she had this trainer in Kettering, Brandon, and I decided I was going to bodybuild. I shifted 4.5 stone. I lived for the cheat day. We do not use cheat day with any of my clients now, but I lived for the cheat day. The cheat day became very unhealthy. It became a starter, home cooked starter. I think I made like a pizza pie once. It was like this huge thing on a tray. And then it was like cheesecakes, banoffee pies, and I'd eat the lot. Like I'd go to bed feeling physically sick. And then I would then punish myself the entire week, like hours and hours of cardio and punishment because I was so mortified by what I'd done. So that's where it all began, really. And this carried on for a significant few years. I competed. The binges at the weekends on cheat days become worse and worse. My self-worth went down and down and down. I literally lost all my confidence. I was 9.5 stone, shredded, and looked in the mirror and was adamant that I was fat, like absolutely adamant I was fat. And I was running on the treadmill one day, and I went for a weekend with my mum's, and one of my friends at the time turned around and said to me, she was like, she didn't say anything, but we went on this weekend and she said to my mum that she thought I had an eating disorder. And my mum spoke to me about it in the morning, and I lost my shit, left, cried, didn't speak to my friend the whole way home from Gloucestershire to Northampton, which is a 2-hour drive. And then I was in the bank at the time, and I bumped into this hypnotherapist and therapist. I sold him home insurance, Richard Jenkins. I sold his home insurance to him, and he left a card, and I reached out to him a week or so later and started having therapy and hypnotherapy for my eating issues. That actually stemmed from losing my dad, and the fact that I'd never grieved for my dad. I buried my emotions in pain and anger and just didn't know how to love anybody anymore. And that was a significant part of like my early 20s, me and my sister went for a walk maybe 6 weeks ago, and we both said that we've like got this huge memory gap from like 17 to like 23 for me, where we can't remember anything. And it was when I started having the therapy that these sorts of emotions started coming out again. So we stopped bodybuilding because that was unhealthy. And I just carried on in the gym. I've spoken about this a lot actually recently, but I used to train like 6 days a week, twice a day, brutal hit sessions in the morning and weight sessions in the evening. Again, I was just pummeling myself, trying to find some form of happiness. And it wasn't until, like, sadly, I quit my job. Me and my partner actually broke up, and I was like, what's next? Like, where do I go now? And then COVID hit, and I just discovered powerlifting. Powerlifting is, oh my God, it's a vibe. Like, powerlifting is like incredible. It's taken my relationship from the gym and working my arse off and aiming to be something and trying to look a certain way and having this issue with food to, well, if I eat well, I train well, I become stronger. And my body started changing, my mentality started changing. I become this more empowered, this confident person that's like found their identity. Like, that's Kate, that's who I am now. I'm this bubbly, driven, ambitious, like, excuse me, I'm going to back myself here. I'm an alpha female. Like, I've got my shit together and I know who I am. And I think, like, over the years, going through this process of like the powerlifting, the eating disorders, the therapy, it's made me who I am now. And one of the biggest things that I then did was I then had more therapy from healing from a relationship where I was treated really badly. And that therapy was, oh, it was tough, man. It was so hard. It was so hard because she made me, Claudia made me work so hard. And she used to literally, like, I used to go to these sessions with her, yeah, because remember, I'm a hard worker and I'm driven, I have to be the best. I would go to my therapy sessions, we'd unpick something, and then she would basically I'd come back to the session with all of the answers. And she was like, you don't need to do this work, Kate. Like, this is what my job is. My job's to kind of do the work with you. And I was like, no, but I've got all the answers. And it was that therapy that I had with her that made me realise a bit more of my self-worth. And it was like the missing piece from being 20 to becoming 30, where I've really discovered myself. And I'm now 32, nearly 33 in June. And I'm whole. Like, I'm complete. I'm not fully complete because I'm not the best version of myself. I can never be, because I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly evolving. I'm this thing that's always growing. But that bout of therapy for me was life-changing. It wasn't until 6 months or a year later that I actually messaged her and I said, you've changed my life. You've literally changed my life. I'm a different person now. Like, I met Derek just after I sent that text message to her. And the reason I met Derek is because he's a really kind person. He's really genuine. He'll tell me off for saying this. He's really sensitive. He's so loving. And I'm very direct, bolshy. No, I'm joking. But like, we have this incredible relationship that's built on like us both being secure and happy. And I believe that the reason I met him was because I was finally at a point in my life where I'm actually content and I'm actually happy with who I am. And like, we have an incredible relationship. Do not get me wrong. We have incredible arguments. He's going to tell me off because I'm not allowed to speak about our relationship. But I'll get him on and then we'll do like podcast therapy and it'll be great. I'll love it and he'll be cursing me. Excuse me, young man. But that therapy that I had with Claudia was absolutely epic. So I guess, like, why am I here? Why am I doing this now? I have 32 years or 15 years of experience that I want to share with the world. I want to share with my clients. I want to be inspirational. I want to help people and I want to help change lives as a fitness coach and as a lifestyle coach, because I believe that I've been through so much in my life that I can have such a big impact on people. And that's, I guess, why I'm here doing this podcast, because I want to be able to reach more people and get more inspirational people onto my podcast that can share their insights with me, but also with you as well. And my clients are like, they're epic. Like, they're absolutely incredible. The community of people that I've been able to build it just blows me away. It absolutely blows me away. And all of that come from a little girl who used to ride her horses, who was dyslexic and thought she was thick. And all of that comes from that. And that drive and that ambition that I have as a person is because of all of the experiences that I've been through in my life. And I want to share as many of those experiences with people as I can. And if, like, people who work with me will be like, oh God, I don't even know what they'd say. Who knows what they'd say? But hopefully they'd say that I'm bubbly, passionate, driven, ambitious, caring, and all of those things and all those qualities have come from the people that I have in my life and the people that I choose to surround myself with. And hopefully that's kind of like how I come across. I mentioned at the start about like having this drive and it being a blessing and a curse. And it is a curse because I want to talk about my sister Steph. Like, Steph's 4 years younger than me. She's married. She's got 2 children and a gorgeous family and a gorgeous husband. And she's so content and so happy with her life. We've got very different lives. We have massively different lives. I'm in a relationship. I travel the world. I have my own business. I'm constantly moving. I'm constantly on the go. And sometimes I look at her life and I think, wow, like, she's so content with what she has. But then I'm never content. I'm always striving for the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And that's like, it is a huge blessing and a curse. And it's a blessing because it means I've achieved so much over the time that I've been where I am now. But it's a curse because I can never find that total satisfaction with what I'm doing and how I'm going to be there. And that's like, I guess that's like a really humbling thing, because you're always wanting more and you're always striving for more. But I guess I kind of want to finish on something. I want to finish on, you can literally build your life and turn your life into whatever you want it to be. It might not be easy. It'll be pretty damn hard. But if you've got something that you want to do, just fucking do it. Like, literally do it. Because you only get one life and you only get the life you're going to live once. And actually, if you've not done the thing that you wanted to do, you should never, ever be living with any regrets. You should always have like had a go or always have tried it. Like, if you've got a dream or an ambition and you're not giving it a go, like, what are you waiting for? Like, build your life into whatever you want it to be. Because if you don't, I mean, you could drop down dead tomorrow and you don't want to have any regrets. Like, you literally want to live your life. I'm literally going to finish there because I feel like I've just waffled for God knows how many minutes. David holds his hands up at me every now and again, and I thought I'd make it to 30 minutes, but hopefully I've not quite got there yet. But he's shaking his head. But yeah, I feel very like self-conscious talking about myself for like 20 minutes. I didn't think I would, but I actually do. And poor Axel's loving it because I'm like stroking his ears continuously because I'm uncomfortable. But anyway, I'm going to finish on this. Growth comes from being uncomfortable. And if you are not uncomfortable, you are not growing. I literally hope you enjoyed my podcast. By the way, the name is called Giggles and Gains. Like, my podcast is called Giggles and Gains. So hopefully I will actually provide you with some laughs at some point and not just gains. But on that note, I hope you enjoyed it. I can't wait for the next one.